Some are easy, some of them are challenging. All right, go.
Invitation to treat.
Yeah.
Just on the way I've got the notes here. At the bottom, I put unilateral contract.
Completely different concepts.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Okay.
Because we did the case study with the book.
Yeah.
That's goods. And then obviously the unilateral contract, the example was the lost pet post.
That's right.
Those are two different.
Completely separate.
Okay.
A unilateral contract is one that the only way you can accept is by performance,
Okay.
right? Invitation to treat, it's something that kind of looks like an offer, but it lacks sufficient detail that people can understand their basic obligations. That is not an offer. That is an invitation to treat, and you cannot accept it and form a contract because there is no offer.
Okay, so the first case study with the book was an invitation to treat because it was lacking sufficient detail.
That's right. There was just a book for sale.
Right. Okay.
And the issue with invitation to treat is if there's a legal way to fill it in, that can fix it and make it not an invitation to treat. And the concept that I taught that does do that is the concept of quantum merit, but it only works for services.
So invitation to treat only works for service?
No. An invitation for treat has a test. The test is, does it lack sufficient detail that people can't understand their basic obligations? With goods, there's no way to fix that. With services, quantum merit can provide that price, which makes it so that people can understand their basic obligations, and it can. I don't want you to think of it as a cured invitation to treat. I want you to look at invitation to treat as, can we determine our basic obligations? With services, the answer is yes, when there's no price discussed, because quantum merit will make it. So, let me just take this concept, and I'm going to try one more time to show you, because it's the question I keep getting asked. So if I can take her question and just say something else. When do you use quantum merit? Do you use it when there's a piece of chocolate for sale for $1? No. When does it come up? Where does it go? It goes nowhere. It has nothing to do with this. You use the concept when there's a basis for arguing them. The triggers are met. Right? Or enough of the triggers are met that they should be discussed. But if there's absolutely nothing there, then they don't have any concept. All right? Any last questions here? Because it's probably really good that we do the case study. Because this will show you exactly how to go through the process with a fact situation. And unlike the other case studies we've done, this one is a little bit, it's hard. It's got some tricky parts to it. But it is pretty concrete. So, my first question is this. How many agreements need to be looked at? The golf. How many? Well, let's do the old. Let's see if you're in the right boat or not. How many of you said, I found just one agreement, Murray? Put up your hand if you're one. 2? You're 2? You found 2? 3? 4? 5? 11? Anybody find more than 5? Anybody find 4? So the largest number is 3? Is it? Hi, I'm teaching. Anybody out there? Hello? Let's try again. Okay, let me ask this. Okay, you people are so hard. Last night's class was worse. Oh my God, they were dead. You guys are actually quite a bit more lively than last night's class. Did you get some sleep? Did you? They were god awful. Anyways. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. Remember, this answer will have no impact on your mark. How many of you have not looked at the Slicerwood case study? Put up your hands. I just need to know how many people I'm talking to.
What was the question?
How many didn't look at Slicer?
Okay.
Couple? So for the rest of you, I need you to answer this question. How many agreements did you find that need to be looked at? 1. Put up your hand if you just saw 1. Okay? 2. 3. And no one saw more than 3? Okay, so let's walk through. How do we approach this case study? I gave you a trick. Do you remember the trick?
Find the agreement?
No.
Try the acceptance.
Find the app.
Oh, yeah.
Big difference. Where's the first acceptance? And this is what you kind of need to do. I'm going to show you this. Okay, folks, have a second. Slicer Woods, being 17, had not been able to find a job for the summer after completing grade 11. Is that acceptance?
No.
Go slow. There's nothing wrong with going slow. You're not in a rush. As a result, he decided to spend his summer golfing. Is that acceptance? Each week, he had golfed at a different course in southwestern Manitoba. Is that acceptance?
No.
What's acceptance look like?
Yes or something.
Yes or yes if you want.
Okay. Towards the end of the summer, he and his friend Jock Nicholas decided to try out the golf course in Bradwardine, Manitoba. Anybody ever been to Bradwardine?
I think you should, considering you keep bringing it up.
You should. Don't blink. Is that acceptance? No. Neither had ever golfed before. Is that acceptance? No. They arrived at the clubhouse in the morning. Is that acceptance?
No.
And noted a sign that said, "Get a hole in one on hole 7 and you'll win big money." Is that acceptance?
No.
No.
Where's the first acceptance?
Not till we find the waiver for the golf cart.
Yeah, wrong.
No.
Okay, you're making me do this. All right, I'm going to skip over to paragraph 3. Slicer also noted a sign that set the prices for golf rental. Is that acceptance? On his way into the course, Slicer noticed that these very classy Mercedes golf carts. Is that acceptance?
No.
What is that? Facts have a reason. Anybody know what issue is going to be raised as a result of that?
Misrepresentation.
Misrepresentation.
You should spot that, earmark it, and know that you're going to be coming back to it. Because you know that, are they Mercedes golf carts that got rented?
No.
No. Is that a false impression?
Yeah.
Did we talk about false impressions? That's how you have to think. If you don't know what a misrepresentation is, when you read that, you won't even register and you won't be able to look for it. You won't see it. You have to know your stuff. Okay? So, and they said they've been deliberately lined up. As Slicer did not have a cart and he really wanted to rent one of these slick Mercedes, he decided to rent one. Is that acceptance? What he didn't know was that they didn't actually rent them. Prices on the sign said that he could rent a cart for, at the course, $3 for 9 holes, $5 for 18, and $7 for the whole day. And that to rent a cart, he had to see the attendant. Is that acceptance? The prices on the sign were similar. Not acceptance. Since they had nothing else to do, they decided to rent it for the whole... We got acceptance yet? No. Slicer went to the attendant and told him that he would take the cart for the whole day. Is that acceptance?
He's accepting the
Is that acceptance? Saying, I will take a cart for the whole day. Is that a clear indication of yes? Now we have a starting point. Now that we have our starting point, what do? You got to back up. Always back. You can't go forward. Acceptance. I showed you that last week, right? Did I tell you that? Why do we always back up?
Because we understand the offer.
No. Let me demonstrate something. I don't remember if I told you this, and again, folks, it's too many times I've taught this, okay? I don't want to deal with the Slicer case study because there's a tiny bit of complexity in it that could make you miss this point. But if I said, and don't answer this question yet, will you buy this chalk from me for $1? Has she answered yet?
Not yet.
Do we have a contract yet?
No.
But, can you tell me right now whether there would be intention to create legal relationship? Did we do this before? I don't think so. Can you tell me right now whether there would be intention to create legal relationship?
Yes.
Are we at arm's length?
No.
How do you know?
We're not friends or family.
That means we are at arm's length, right? Not friends or family. Arm's length, not. Don't get screwed with that. I worked hard for that, to get you to understand that. Don't screw it up, okay? So, we are not friends and family, which means we're at arm's length. We have that. How much? Prove it. Don't just tell me there's money involved. Prove it. The offer is for what? $1 is money. There's money involved, so it's commercial. And since we have arm's length and commercial, we got this. We don't have consensus yet. You know that because she hasn't accepted, right?
Yes.
Consideration. Can you tell me right now that if she says yes, will there be consideration?
Yes.
What will the consideration be? What is she going to give? $1. What am I going to give? It's actually, she's giving me the promise when she says yes, and I'm giving her the promise to give her the thing. I'm giving her that obligation. She's got the right to this. This is what I'm giving her, the right to, and she's giving me the right to the thing. So there's going to, this is here. Lee, can you tell me right now, do we have to break a law to sell a piece of chalk for $1?
No.
No. Does it limit a person's ability to earn a living?
Nope.
So this is here. There's an offer in the air, right? Would you agree?
Yes.
Now say yes.
Yeah.
Bang! It's in place instantly when she says yes. All the elements are here. She says yes. So do we go any further? No, we can't go further in time. She has created cement with that answer. And that's why we have to go back. And we got to find out when he said, I'll take it for the whole day. Where is the offer?
The sign in front of the place.
So what's the offer?
The Mercedes car.
No.
The offer is the different prices for the cart and the period of time you have the cart.
But he says, what's he say?
He'll take it for the whole day.
Is he accepting $3 for 9 holes?
He's accepting the $7 for the whole day.
So where's that offer contained? It's on the?
On the sign.
And does it say cart and golf?
Yes.
Yes.
And now we can do the exact same thing again. Now that you have your focus point, you're going to ask, is there intention to create legal relationship? Is it arm's length?
Yes.
They're not friends or family? Is it commercial?
Yes.
How do you know?
There's money involved.
Prove it.
$7 on the sign.
$7 is money. The test for commercial is there money involved? $7 is money. Therefore, there's money involved. They're at arm's length because they're not friends or family. And since they're at arm's length and it's commercial, we have intention to create legal relationship. That is how you have to answer that question. Okay? Okay, good. She said okay. I expect you to do so. Consensus. What was offered?
The golf cart and golf ball for $7.
Rent a cart and go over the course. $7 for the whole day.
When he said, I will take the cart for the whole day, was he accepting the offer that they were making? Is what was offered on the sign the same as what was accepted?
No,
Why not?
because
He saw your
he's taking just the cart, he's not accepting the offer of the golf included.
You don't think so?
Well, I would assume that.
Why would you assume that?
I'm not going there just to drive a freaking cart.
But what's the sign say?
Here, the sign says cart and golf.
So when he says, I'll take the cart for the whole day, does he mean he's going to golf too?
That's what they went there for.
Doesn't it obviously imply?
Yeah?
So then
For
what
what?
was it for next?
Yeah? What about the Mercedes?
Thinks he's accepting the Mercedes, and then the sign's actually offering one of the lesser golf carts that's hidden behind the Mercedes.
So, is what was offered the same as what was accepted?
At this point, yes.
If you understand the whole concept of what happened and where it fits, you know where to put this. Does it say whole day Mercedes cart? Where's the offer? What would you call the idea of Mercedes? Where did the idea of Mercedes exist? Where did it exist? What?
He had in his head that he was renting a Mercedes.
Are thoughts part of the offer?
No.
But is it a deliberate thought that is false that was put in place by the other side? When you see that it says they deliberately lined this up to make him think that, why is that fact there? Is it just something that I threw in there? All the facts have reasons, folks. They tie to areas. Does it fit like a glove, folks? Is there a false impression?
Yes.
Yes, and it's outside the contract.
And it's outside the contract.
But we don't know that yet.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, it tells us in the facts, the carts are lined up and they're never actually given to people.
Well, I know what's in the facts, but Slicer doesn't know that until he goes outside and is given the other cart.
We're going to hold that for a minute. The question is, did the offer include Mercedes?
No, we just did cart.
Then it's not part of the offer. It's a thought, right?
Okay.
Do you see that? That's what they look like. This is exactly what they look like. It's a thought created by the other side, but it's not part of the offer. The offer never says Mercedes cart,
Okay.
right? And part of it is, it fits so well into misrepresentation that you pretty much have to put it there. Although there's going to be some twists that come up with respect to that later on. Okay? So, thoughts aren't part of the offer, but when the other side creates false thoughts, like they roll back the odometer to make you think that that's the thing. You don't put the odometer reading in the contract because why would you? It's right there, right? That's a misrepresentation too. All right.
In my notes here, I have the test for misrepresentation being, did someone say something outside the contract that was false material and cause the other party to end the contract? But I want.
Oh, just a minute. We will deal with that over here. Can you hold?
Yeah.
What I'm dealing with is here still.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
There's issues here, and I don't want to, because we'll get sidetracked.
Okay.
I want to follow, to the extent that we can, a linear process here. So the first question is there intention to create legal relationship? Go
So
ahead.
then would you say that there is consensus then?
We haven't finished that.
Okay. Correct.
Okay. So, is there intention to create legal relationship? Anybody have any problems with that? So, let's go to consensus. Where's the offer?
On the board.
It's on the sign. The question is what was offered the same as what was accepted? What was the offer? Are there any of these things that come into play? And again, I'm going to show you this. Would you say, obviously when you rent a cart for the whole day, it's going to be a Mercedes cart? Does this fill it in? Obviously, it's going to be a Mercedes cart. Anybody ever rented a cart?
Yeah.
Is it obviously going to be a particular brand?
Only obviously what you see when you approach the clubhouse.
There's an argument there, John. I don't want to suggest that you're wrong, okay? But when it fits so well into something else, I'm trying to push you in that direction. So if you put that down on a test, it could cause some problems because when you get to misrepresentation, you may not deal with them properly.
Okay.
But that's where that needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
Because you should remember this. Thoughts aren't part of the offer. So, what about this? Do we use this concept of written?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not a written contract.
Was it a talking sign?
Oh, yeah.
For those who missed that, we'll come back, we'll do with it again. Okay? So, is what was offered, $7 for the whole day, cart and golf, what was accepted? Now, answer that question. When he said, I'll take it for the whole day, was he accepting that offer that was being made on the sign? There we say there is consensus. Consideration. What's the cart giving?
What?
Sorry, the question
Oh, sorry, that was a terrible question. What's the club giving? It's not a talking cart either. What's the club giving?
The right to golf and the right to use of a cart.
Yeah, sometimes people say they're giving the cart. They're not actually giving the cart. And they're certainly not giving the club or the course. They're giving a right to use it. But that's something, right? What's Slicer giving? Promise to pay $7. Even if he pays it right after, you can't go ahead in time. It's right there. The only way it would actually be the $7 if he came up and threw the $7. Then he's not giving the promise to pay $7 when he agrees. He's actually giving the $7. So that's not a big deal, but he is giving the promise to pay $7. They're giving him the right to use the cart and golf for the whole day. Right? Are they both giving something they did not already have or have the right to?
Nothing in the facts suggests that they had the right to this prior.
I don't want you to do that with that one. There is so nothing in the facts. Like, the facts indicate basically that he's come to this course for the whole time and this is their first conversation. It's set up in that way. So, I wouldn't mark that wrong, but it worries, a tiny bit of worry on that, in that thought.
I see what you're saying.
It's so clear that they have no previous agreements at all for this, right? That I wouldn't want to say nothing in the facts, because the facts actually indicate that he doesn't have this and they don't have that, right? Okay? So do we have that consideration? Mm-hmm. Legal, you have to break the law.
No.
Does it limit a person's ability to earn a living?
No.
Bang. I did it nicely this time. Bang. Right? All the elements are there. So now we got to talk over and deal with thoughts. Is there a false impression that is outside the agreement?
Yes.
Yeah. When you line up people to make people think certain things, you're creating a false impression. And it's been created by the other side. It's not created by his buddy or, someone else. It wasn't like some strangers lined these all up and made people think that. The other side, the golf club, did this. So we have the basis for looking at misrepresentation. There is a false impression created by the other side. Once we have that basis, that's basically saying, if I can go back to my analogy, we got to cross the misrep bridge. And we got to figure out, we got to use this concept here. So, what do you need to do now to deal with misrepresentation? What do you need to do? Yeah, you have to understand that there are 3 elements. That doesn't tell you if there's a misrepresentation. The fact that you've spotted it, that just means it's time to take a look at this carefully. So, here's the first question. Was there a false impression?
Yes.
What was the false impression?
The impression was that the cart would be in Mercedes.
Is that a fact? Are we dealing with a fact or an opinion?
It would be a fact. Like the impression is that it would be in Mercedes. Not that you would enjoy the Mercedes.
No. I agree. Is that a fact? Or is it an opinion?
Is it a fact that he had an impression he would get
Nope.
a Mercedes?
Is the impression he's left with factual? Let me show you this. Here I have a water bottle. This is a Mercedes water bottle. True or false?
False.
And don't say there's no information. Okay. But you know that, right? Something is or it isn't. That is a statement that is capable and is in fact false, right? So we're not dealing with an opinion. Either something is a Mercedes or it's not, right? That is, the impression that they was left with is in fact a fact. Because whether something is a particular model or brand, either is or it isn't. You don't say, well, I think it's a Mercedes. That is a fact. So the answer is yes. That is a factual impression. Is it material? What's the test?
Is this fact typically something people care about?
Yes.
Really? You've rented carts before?
Yes.
And you go, I want a particular brand?
Not a brand, but he mentions in the facts about the particular amenities that come with the carts.
You would have to argue that, John, before I would see it? Because the question is, you've actually got a different argument that it counts with these amenities. The issue that they're being left with is this brand. When people rent a cart, and some of you, this is the problem with this fact, how many of you have never rented a golf cart before? So how can I expect you to know, right? I'm not ever going to give you a question like that on a test, but do you go, I only rent carts when there are Cub Cadet or whatever they happen to be? Do people care about the brand of cart they get?
In this situation, yes.
That's not the question. You can't ever look at this situation. That's not what this means. The question is, do people normally care about that fact? And the fact is, it's a Mercedes. I would actually argue that there isn't anything about amenities. Do people care the brand of cart that they get when they rent a cart? I would expect you to come to that conclusion if you have any knowledge of this, but some of you won't know. How do I know? I've never golfed before. Which is why we have the third one. Did it induce Slicer into entering the contract?
Yes. No.
As Slicer did not have a cart and really wanted to try one of the slick Mercedes, he decided to rent one.
So what's your answer? Yes or no?
Yeah, it caused him to enter the contract.
If I was to sell you my car that shows on the odometer that it's 120,000, but I rolled my odometer back. I did. Did I tell you this?
Yes.
So I rolled it back. And you're paying $5,000 for the car because you think it has 120,000. And before you pay for it, or before you leave, you find out that it's 300,050, 300. What would you do?
Pull out the contract.
Is that what Slicer did?
No.
What did he do?
Oh, follow through.
He got in the cart and went away. Which means one of two things. Either it didn't matter that much to him, although he wanted it, it didn't matter that much to him, he took the deal. Or he did not repudiate. And I think that the first one's actually the right answer. Yes, he wanted one. But if it mattered that much to him that it caused him to enter the contract, he would not have continued with the contract once he knew the truth. Right? If you found out that something wasn't what you thought it was going to be, that something you were relying on wasn't in fact something you wanted, that there was something that was false impression, and you find out that it's what the truth is, do you still go ahead with it if it matters to you? But if it doesn't matter to you, what do? Yeah. So there is a very good basis for a misrepresentation here, but when you apply the test to it, I think you're going to come to the conclusion that it was false impression. That's for sure. I do not think it was material because people don't normally care about the brand of cart. That's my personal opinion. And it did not cause him to enter the contract because when he knew the truth, he still carried on with the contract. He didn't ask for his money back or anything. So, there's basis. Is it duress? There is no duress bridge in these fact situations. What's the test?
Was it done by force?
Were they forced into the contract? Into a contract?
So they didn't want? Yeah. Was he? No. Is there undue influence? What's the test?
Are they in one of these large relationships?
Are they? Then we don't have undue influence. Is it going to be used to resolve any dispute?
No.
It can't be. It's not there. You see, this is what I'm trying to explain. Where does it go? It goes nowhere. It has nothing to do with it. It's not part of the path you're using to get to any conclusion. It's a law for other facts. That's a very nice way of putting it. This is a law for other facts. Not these ones. Non est factum. What's the test?
Not my document.
What's the test?
The document switched out, or they signed something that he...
That's a better one. Did he sign something thinking it was something else? Did he?
No,
How do you know?
because he signed it without reading it.
That's a bad answer. Do you know what you just did? Josh?
No.
You don't? Okay, let's go back up a bit. What's the offer?
Okay, see, this is where you're confusing me right now.
Oh, I'm not confusing you.
No,
You might be
because
confused.
We stopped at the acceptance, we determined what the offer is.
Right, we back up.
Now, all the stuff we're discussing is things that came after the acceptance and the offer.
Didn't sign anything.
But we didn't know, the misrepresentation of the stuff we're discussing has no bearing on this acceptance or offer because Slicer isn't aware of it yet. If we stop where you tell us...
Whoa, 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 whoa. No. I see what you're understanding, and I need you to back up a bit and understand. There are all sorts of timing issues in these things that I can understand why you'd be confused by that, okay? So, let's just deal with these things. These things are almost all going to have to be in the offer, which is why we have to back up, okay? right? The only one that isn't actually is this. And the actual acceptance itself, right? Is the arm's length issue. It's not in the offer, right? Everything else is in the offer. So when we're deciding if there's a contract, we can't go any further than acceptance. Because it's all about the offer. And the acceptance cements that offer. There can't be any more put in later on. Do you understand that part?
Okay, yeah.
So, can there be a misrepresentation after acceptance? Think about it. But sometimes we have to determine whether the elements are there by looking at all of the facts. But this cannot happen after acceptance. You can't say you're reduced to agree to a contract by something that was said after you agree. Right?
Okay.
So, but when we're dealing with the elements, so the elements are, was there a false impression? That would have to be before. Okay? Is it material? When do you determine that? Is there a timing issue as to what people normally think? No. Right? It's just what do you normally think? So we're looking at this like a judge, looking at this fact situation and applying this thing to it. And now we're asking, and did it cause him to enter the contract? His behavior after acceptance is telling you that, though. So the question is, did it cause him to enter the contract? And the answer is, we know it couldn't have, because when he knew the truth, he carried on with that contract. So although the facts say he really wanted one of these, it's got to be so important that it would cause him to enter the contract. And you determine that by looking at the whole of the facts.
Okay, but the facts say that he went into the contract before he knew the difference in the cards.
He agreed to it. But the question for did it cause him to enter the contract is the proof that it didn't happens when he looks at that card and says, this is ugly, and gets in and takes it anyways.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
So, hold it. Undue influence. When does that happen?
If those relationships are
Existing. So if we made a contract and then suddenly became friends, or no, or then you, let's say that I agreed to sell you my car, and then a week later you signed up for my class. Do we have undue influence? Probably not, right? Non est factum, again, the question is, did he sign something? But we are looking at this deal right now. This one. So when we ask the question about this deal, did he sign something thinking it was something else? What's the answer?
no.
Why not?
It hasn't happened yet, verbally.
He didn't sign anything. We are looking at this agreement. We're trying to determine where this agreement goes. We're not looking at the written one yet. We haven't got there yet. We're only looking at the verbal one where he says, I'll take it. And now we ask the question, does that thing over there have this? The answer is no. Because that thing over there, he didn't sign anything at all. How could he sign something thinking it was something else? He didn't sign anything. And this is why I really like the idea of finding acceptance, backing up, finding the offer, writing it down, and staying focused on that. Because like negligence and sometimes the torts, you can jump between one thing and another if you don't keep your focus on. Josh, is that clear to you now?
Yeah. Okay.
So, non est factum is looking at that acceptance, because that's the one we're looking at right now, and he never signed anything. I think it was something else because he didn't sign anything. Hold it. You're number 2.
So for just the last point of misrepresentation, if it were to change, like if it was different case and it,
And he said, oh, I'm not taking this?
yeah,
Yeah.
what would happen? Would that just be yes then?
Well, the third element would be, did it cause them to enter contract, would be yes. But in order to have a misrepresentation, how many of them do you need?
All three.
So if the facts change so that 1 is there and 3 is there, it still doesn't change the outcome. But it would change your answer.
Yeah. And then what if all of them were there? You can argue at the end saying that like, you could either use the flaw or not.
Right. The flaw would give them the right to walk away. But walk away means you go golf somewhere else. If you don't use the flaw, then you're staying there and golfing.
Okay.
Right? A flaw is not a breach. It's a right to walk away. That gives you a choice whether you're going to use it. We're going to see that in just a minute. You're on.
So what I'd like from you is the most explicit statement for the test for non-S factum that you can give me. Because I don't have an explicit test in either of my notes.
That is a good question. And there's a problem here. Because if you understand what non-S factum is, it requires 4 things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the test is really, are there these 4 things there? Okay? But how many of them do you have to show it's not non-S factum?
You only have to show that 1 is absent.
Absolutely. So the test that I normally use is, did they sign something thinking it's something else?
And then they have to prove the 4th thing.
If you say, no, they didn't sign anything, we can't have non-S factum, we move on. If you say yes, now we got to delve deeper into it.
Good.
And go through all 4 and see if they're all 4 there. So the test, I'm going to answer the question is, did one person sign something thinking it was something else? Without that, there can't be non-S factum.
But you still have to prove all 4 elements for it to be the flaw.
Right.
Okay.
So it's kind of what I call a trigger. Okay, once it's there, it's time to look at this. If it's not there, there's no sense looking at the rest. And again, it depends on the question. Like if you're asked a question, deal fully and completely with non-S factum. Do not write, well, the test is this, and don't deal like, did they sign something think it's something else? You always have to answer the question. And if you're ever debating less or more, should I write less or more? Write more. Okay. The object on an exam is to show your knowledge. There are reasonable limits to that. Okay? And what I tell people to do is go through, put a good basic answer down for every question. In fact, there's a technique that I'm going to suggest you do in this test. It actually, I think, creates a high degree of efficiency so that you're not running out of time or doing everything else. Number 1, spend the first minute looking through without writing anything. Students who are so gung-ho, they're so wound up that they just want to open their exam and start scribbling like this. They will often write way too much. Way more than they need to, and they run out of time. Because they don't know where they're going or what's involved. They don't know that what they're busy writing about here is actually question 4. Look through it. That minute isn't going to hurt you. It'll probably help you. Then you want to go through and write a good basic answer. One that you think is between 80 and 90% of what you think I expect. Get the good basic answer down. Get ink on every question. No matter what, folks. Answer the question, even if you have to make it up. I'm going to know you made it up when you make it up, but maybe you'll slide something in by accident that is actually right, and you might get half a mark, okay? So never leave a question blank. I can only give that a 0, right? And then, when you've got your good basic answer, right down to the end, you're going to look at the clock, and you're going to say, okay, I've got 45 minutes left. I'm going to write until my hand falls off. Or we run out of time. It'll probably be your hand falling off. Go ahead.
So do I have to read the whole case first, or stop when I find a yes, carry on with that, and
You need to, I understand your question. And it goes back to these issues. You can't know what you're really dealing with by going through line by line. You can't know, right? So you can't get to a yes and just stop and start answering the questions because you don't know what the issues are. So his question is, once I find acceptance, should I just stop right there? And the answer is no, right? Because you don't know where it's going. You don't know where you're trying to get to or what bridges you're going to have to go across to get there. Read the whole thing first. But when you finally have read it and have an understanding of the fact situation, then you've got to walk through and start. This gives you a starting point. That's all it does. Okay? So, is there a capacity issue here? Is either side drunk, insane, or a minor?
Yeah.
Oh, darn it. Who's the minor? Now what do we have to do? Did I do that thing for you last week, folks? You have to add? Did I do that?
What are you talking about?
Nowhere on my exam should you ever do anything that equates to this. And here's what students do. They'll go, Slicer is, how old is Slicer?
17.
Slicer is 17. What impact does that